Placed near a lakefront and only a small distance away from a local village, the Café Aquilonia, in slight reference to the Gothic tradition, is a secular work both inspired by as well as paying homage to religious inspirations. A library and cafe, this location is rural without a proper city nightlife, thus the most likely customers would be fishermen, shepherds, and hunters during the day. Upon learning about the place, they may encourage their families for an outing to the establishment as well. The exterior, while altered for originality, holds to the burlesque principle of mathematical symmetry, as well as taking its colors in part from what was thought of at the time to be the recreation of a Roman building. Now, of course, today we know that these statues were painted, and one of the biggest takeaways I had from the class was the idea that this was in fact the burlesque style and not the actual Roman recreation. The main feelings this building is meant to promote are security, purity, and maturity, while also showcasing a small sense of wealth in addition to playing on the theme of a daytime sky. The white concrete used as a substitute for concrete and marble when mixed with the framing device of a cube, thus square shape, provides us with our sense of security while also involving a sense of purity from its lack of color variation at different levels. The lapis lazuli as a substitute for topaz being used in the decoration of the building, leading into gold at the top, which also slowly narrows, creates a sense of hierarchy and wealth or status, making the building more subconsciously appealing to walk into in the hopes of said status being transferred on an emotional level to the customers. This mixture of blue and gold is also meant to be a reference to the sun, as there is always a line of blue leading into a single gold or sun block. Finally, the dome, which was also inspired from burlesque, holds to this same daylight sky reference. This is because seeing any one corner of the building from a distance will look like a gold sun framed by the blue stained glass blocks of the dome, or a sun in the sky. However, the elements influenced from art history really come out in the interior. As we move into the two doors, which themselves have their own religious inspiration from cathedrals and most churches, which open in a similar way, but scaled down for a more casual use in a secular building, the first principle being used is surprisingly for a 3D structure, linear perspective. Despite this technique usually only applying to 2D surfaces, here with the use of specific pillar placement in a 3D environment being complemented in effect by the optical illusion framing created by the dark black and blue tiles, the space seems much bigger than it actually is. Usually on a 2D image, this is implemented through making sure you're using only one vanishing point on a horizon line, which you can see here framed by the pillars in the form of our cafe stand. The placement of booths in a symmetrical fashion also aids in this illusion, as since they are even, they do not disrupt our taking advantage of our customer's sense of sight through breaking things up. If there is one alteration I would have made here to increase this sense, I would have put the booths just half a block closer to the stand at the very end, which would have increased that vanishing point, but that sadly was not possible within the limitations of the game engine. The placement of the booths also creates an implied hallway where one may walk to the center and get their food, at which point the world of literature awaits. As one could possibly tell from the name, the cafe and library is also partially inspired by the literary works of Texas author Robert E. Howard. References to him can be found in the name of the building as well as the menu items. Aquilonia being the name of the fictional country his most famous character, Conan the Cimmerian, would come to conquer and rule as king after aiding in a civil war. Part of my mindset for this construction was the question, what if Robert E. Howard started a fast food chain? The answer is it probably wouldn't be a fast food chain, it would probably be a cafe, it would probably have a library in it, and give discounts to families. Back to our theme of daylight, as one sits down with their meal, they will be greeted by the stained glass mimicry of light blue and white crosses, also paying reference to the religious inspirations of the style. Light blue stained glass is used to transition the eye from white of the building's main material into the daylight sky above, and into the top of the building, with the only exception being the darker blue used in the top checkerboard formation of the stained glass to camouflage it into the dome and allow the whiter aspects, just like the crosses beneath, to mimic clouds. The exact intended effect of the side windows is to draw the eye to it, as one daydreams through their reading and eating by making them think they saw a cross-shaped cloud in the corner of their eye. This is, of course, aided by the daylight sky, which has actual white clouds moving visible through said windows. Lastly is the back window with a similar checkerboard pattern to the ceiling, intended for the same camouflage or blending purpose as the above pattern, but with the same colors as the other side windows, for the blue being the lighter blue stained glass to further complete the illusion of still being outside. With the building closing at sunset rather than any specific time by number relation, it presents a mystical quality to children specifically, hopefully producing awe in hindsight after visiting. The desire is that one day an adult who visited the place as a child would write something like, "When I was a kid, it was a magical place that rose with the sun and set with the moon. A place that could only exist in the light of day. It really made me appreciate life." I've always personally defined art as anything that provides catharsis to the viewer, listener, or reader of it. Real art should exist to decrease mental instability and provide free therapy to the masses. Robert E. Howard had to suffer a life of extreme trauma, partially due to growing up as a literary prodigy in a poverty-stricken, often illiterate environment in rural Cross Plains, Texas, which would also have seen a high crime spike during an oil rush which would happen periodically throughout the year. After the final blow of the death of his mother when he was 30, he would tragically commit suicide after providing over 100 stories and poems regarded as masterpieces by famous authors today, such as Stephen King, to the world. In many ways, I believe a place like this should always exist as an escape for smart kids born into bad places. This has been my tour of the Cafe Aquilonia.